Welcome to our Bright Idea session on increasing learner accountability with class progress and completion tracking. We're excited to have everyone join us today. It's really cool to see where everyone's from. I'm seeing that still come in the chat. Before we officially get started, I want to let you know a few housekeeping items. Closed captions are available, so feel free to turn them on or off depending on your needs. The Zoom Q&A box is available for any questions that you have throughout today's session. Please keep all questions specific to today's topic, and we'll do our best to answer any questions that we receive during the session. But if you don't see your answer while we're together, be sure to check the Q&A report that you'll get in a follow-up email. Today's session is being recorded and will be posted on the Bright Ideas for Higher Education YouTube playlist. You can expect to see that video posted within a week. And in the coming days, we'll send all registrants an email with a link to that playlist, a copy of the slide deck, which contains some additional resources, and a copy of that Q&A report from today's session. All right, so we're going to go ahead and close the chat for now, just so that way we can send some resources. But let's get started with today's agenda. We'll start with some quick introductions. From there, we will share an overview of some of the tools that we plan to use today. Then we will have a demonstration in the platform. And to finish off, we'll have time to share some resources, time for a discussion, and some live Q&A time. So for those who haven't met me yet, my name is Victoria Fulhenshaw, and I'm a customer success specialist at D2L. Essentially, my role is to help educators like you make the most of your Brightspace tools. Joining me are my colleagues Heather, Sophie, and Nicole, who will be sharing their expertise in the Q&A chat and also sharing some resources in the actual chat box. Before we get too far, I do want to align on just some quick terms. D2L is the company that myself and my colleagues work for. Brightspace is our product, a learning management system. And depending on where you work, you might call your Brightspace instance something different like Avenue to Learn or Power Ed. Although your learning management system might go by a different name, if you're here, then it probably refers to Brightspace. And then we also have Brightspace Community, which is D2L's free online website where members can find great teaching and learning information, share best practices, and connect with other professionals using Brightspace. We'll add a link to the chat for you to register if you are not yet a member. So when we talk about learner accountability, we're not talking about surveillance of the learner. Learner accountability means that students understand what's expected of them. Students can see their own progress. They receive timely feedback, and that support happens early. It's not about catching students really doing something wrong, but proactively creating that clarity and visibility for the learner around their learning materials. When students are able to see their progress, they can adjust their behavior. Motivation can increase, confusion decreases, and self-regulation improves. And when instructors can see those engagement patterns, they can intervene before small issues become major barriers. So before we discuss the tools within Brightspace, it's important to take a step back and ask a foundational question. What does completion actually mean in a course? First, completion should always be clear and trackable. As instructors, I'm sure you want to be able to monitor progress, but we also want students to understand exactly what's expected of them. Ideally, learners should be able to recognize when they've completed something. This could be anything from finishing a module to submitting an assignment, or even achieving a certain level of mastery. Another important thing to remember is that completion can look different depending on the course design and the learning goals. So in one course, completion might mean viewing all course materials. In another, completion might mean submitting a reflection or participating in a discussion. And in some cases, completion might be tied to demonstrating mastery through assessments or quizzes. Because of this, there really isn't a single right way to track completion. What matters most is that the definition aligns with how you want your students to learn or what you want your students to learn and how you want them to engage with your course. So, one of the most important things we can do to support learner accountability is to make expectations clear right from the start of the course. A quick best practice in Brightspace is to include a start here or introduction module at the beginning of your course. And I know many of you might be using like a syllabus or that overview at the top of your course as well for that. This module can help students understand a few key things. First, why the course matters. What are the learning goals and how does this course connect to their broader program or field of study? Second is students should understand what participation and completion look like in the course. So once again, do they need to review all module materials? Do they need to participate in those discussions or submit those assignments by specific deadlines? Next, it's helpful to show students how the course is structured. This could include a brief overview of the modules, assessments, and activities that they'll encounter throughout the semester. And finally, it is important to set expectations around workload and pacing. Roughly how much time should they expect to spend each week on course materials and how the course will progress? When students understand these things from the beginning, they're much more likely to stay engaged and accountable throughout the course. So now that we've talked about setting clear expectations through course structure and an introduction module, let's talk about the tools that actually help instructors monitor and support learner progress throughout the course. This list is by no means exhaustive, but it is a great starting point. So we have class progress, completion tracking, content completion indicators, intelligent agents, and awards. These tools allow instructors to monitor how learners are interacting with the course. So, for example, whether they're viewing materials, submitting assignments, or staying on track with those deadlines. They also help identify students who might need additional support early in the term, rather than waiting until the midterm grades reveal a problem. And another benefit is that these tools encourage the students themselves to take ownership of their learning because they can see their progress and understand where they stand. Today, we're going to focus on a few key tools that support this process. We have class progress, which gives instructors insight into learner activity and engagement across the course. Content completion indicators and completion tracking both allow you to define and monitor what it means for students to complete course content or activities. And then we also have intelligent agents that can remind learners that you're here, even if you don't have the time or bandwidth to message each of them privately. So I know I've talked a lot on slides, so I won't spend too much time on this slide, but this gives you a brief overview of a couple of these tools. So as we hinted at earlier, completion tracking defines what done means. The key question is to ask, what does done actually mean in my course? And class progress gives you that visual snapshot of engagement. So you'll get to see who's logging in, who hasn't viewed content, who submitted their work, and just patterns in general across the entire class. So these tools really help accountability become proactive. So before we jump into the platform, I want to quickly overview our learning objectives or review those. So by the end of this demonstration, you should be able to define course completion using those completion tracking and content completion settings. You'll also see how to use class progress to monitor learner engagement across the course. And finally, we'll look at how you can interpret that data to identify students who may need support earlier in the semester. So that said, let's move into Brightspace. Thanks, guys. Had to take a water break there for a second. All right, so we're in our Business 101 course. And now that we've discussed what completion means conceptually, let's look at how we can define and track that inside of Brightspace. Completion tracking helps instructors clearly define what it means for students to complete course materials. It also allows you to monitor that progress over time. When expectations are clear, students are much more likely to then stay on track. So I'm going to start by showing you the tool that we have that's named completion tracking. This is found at the course level and is something that is primarily used in the case of upskilling within the education space. Where it really shines is in conjunction with the Manager Dashboard tool. I do recognize that not everyone here will have the same tool availability or have access to Manager Dashboard, so I won't spend too long here, but I do want to take a moment to show where it can be found for those that this will apply to, and for those that are curious about it. So we're going to go into our course admin space. And within course admin, I have completion tracking. Once again, if you don't have access to that, as a reminder, it might not just be available within your personal environment. Once we get to the screen, you'll see that we have a checkbox labeled Enable Completion Tracking for this course. When we click this, I'm met with two options. We have content topic completion and release condition completion. The first requires that students visit every content item within a course to achieve completion, whereas the release condition option is based on different defined conditions. So whether you want to do an assignment submission, a quiz completion, or maybe achieving a particular outcome. So one important note for those who do see the completion tracking tool within their course, do not enable completion tracking or change the type of completion once your course has started. Changing completion criteria mid-course can create confusion for students and make progress data unreliable. The best practice is to make these changes before learners start your course. So with this, I didn't have completion tracking enabled, so I'm going to keep that disabled here, save and close. And I want to talk about completion tracking when it comes to individual content items and assessments. So when I'm saying completion tracking here now, I don't mean this tool here. I just mean the concept of tracking completion. So let's jump into our content space here. This is something everybody here should have access to now. We're going to start with one of our current content pages, and we'll see what it looks like from a new content page soon. So here I have a page that was built directly into Brightspace. And if I wanted to edit this to see the completion tracking abilities here, I can do that using this ellipses here and click edit. This is something that's likely very familiar to everyone here. We have our editor here on the left-hand side, but we have a couple options here on the right. And you can see here, we have this option here for completion. When we click into the section, we're met once again with two options. We have automatically when opened and manually by learner. As the instructor, you can decide which content completion criteria you'd prefer for each piece of content. This is available for content pages built natively in Brightspace like this one, LTI links, SCORM content, and a number of other different content types. This manual completion can be especially useful for reflective activities where you want your students to intentionally mark when they've reviewed something. We also have the same workflow if you're creating a new piece of content. So if you're following along, we're going to go to Create New and Create New Page. From here, I will go ahead and give our content some information. So we have a title. I'd also like to use a template, just like I used on that last page there. Since we're not really focused on content creation today, I'm going to go through these a little quickly. But if you're curious to see more about the content creation space, we've had past sessions on this. All right. So now that I have my content here on the left-hand side, I want to look at the options on the right. You can see that the default of complete when opened is already noted here on the right. So let's change that to manual completion. We're going to make this visible for our learners and press save and close. So as you saw, this is a brand new page. None of my learners have seen this yet, but I want to take a moment to see what this looks like from the learner perspective. So here you can see I'm now logged in as Faith, one of our learners in this course. And when we go into our content space and view or visit the same areas we were in before, so we started at those course learning outcomes, you can see that we have a mark as complete button here at the bottom of our screen. And you can see that this one is already marked as complete. But if we go into our brand new content, you can see that our mark as complete option is available here for her to click on once she's reviewed those materials. So this small change actually helps students build their self-regulation as it gives them the opportunity to take that ownership of their learning. This one additional click that Faith has to do can cause her to reflect and wonder, do I actually know this information? Have I really completed it? And before we switch back to the instructor role, I do want to highlight our enhanced table of contents that you can see on the left-hand side here. This is another way that students can easily see what they've already completed and what might still need attention. For students who feel overwhelmed by large courses, visual progress indicators like this can make the course feel much more manageable. We did have a session on this where we talked about this more in depth this past Friday, and it's available on our YouTube playlist if you wanted to learn more. So this is what the content completion looks like, but let's take a look at some accessible activities. I'm going to go back as an instructor here. And I want to look at one of the assignments that we have here. We have our in-class group work assignment. You can edit the activity right here in our content area. And once we're on the screen, you'll see a similar completion space here on the right. This time, though, it's matched up with our submission. When we open this section, we're met with a few different options. But what I want to focus on for now is that marked as completed section here at the bottom. It's currently set as automatically on due date, but as an instructor, I can also choose automatically on evaluation or manually by learners. If you're following along and you're thinking, I don't see these options, I want to bring you back up to the submission type here. So submission type is observed in person, but if I were to change it to file submission, file or text, or even that text submission, you'll see that our marked as completed section disappears. Those submission types that I just mentioned are automatically marked as completed once the assignment has been submitted. But completion settings like these for the on-paper submission or observed in person can be useful when you have those in-class or participation-based activities that still contribute to course engagement. So now that we've seen an assignment, let's see what's available for a quiz. So now that I'm in a quiz, I can once again see that similar workflow of being able to edit that activity right here. And when I'm in that edit space, I can see that under completion tracking or the completion space is now paired with attempts. And there's a note here that tells me that this quiz is complete after a learner has submitted an attempt. So once we click that, that's where you see that complete after attempt is submitted. This is the default for quizzes. But when we click on Manage Completion Tracking, you'll see that I have the option to change it so it's marked or it's only marked complete after a student has a passing overall quiz grade. This is a great option to ensure your students are able to demonstrate mastery and truly understand course material before moving forward. So here I can click on here and then change this anywhere between 0 and 100%. So once those completion expectations are defined throughout your content and activities, like this quiz here, the next step is monitoring how students are progressing through your course. This is where the class progress tool comes in. Class progress gives instructors a visual snapshot of how students are interacting with their course. To get there, I'm going to cancel out of this quiz. And you'll see I have class progress here in my navigation bar. If you don't have it in your navigation bar, you can still access it under Course Admin. When I first enter my class progress space, I can see a list of my students here, how much content has been completed, their login history, an overview of grades, and some assignment submissions here. What's awesome about this overview space is that it's customizable to what's important to you. So I can go into my settings here at the top. And once I'm in here, I can reorder things, move them up or down, or I can replace the indicators that I see here. So let's say I wanted to replace my assignments performance summary. You can see that I met with different indicators here as options. So we have our checklist completion summary, content visited summary, which is different than our content completion summary, as we just talked about, discussions participation, quiz performance, survey completion, and system access. So I'd like to replace this with our quiz performance here. And I'll press save and close. Now, once I'm back on this page, I can do a couple different things. So I can hover over different metrics to quickly see more information. So this one's on our grades. I can see greater detail on those grades, the assignments that we had on here earlier, and login information. And what's powerful here is I'm not just seeing grades, but I'm also able to see engagement patterns. This allows instructors to identify potential issues weeks before they appear officially in grades. A student that hasn't submitted an assignment yet, but has been accessing content and logging in, tells a different story than a student that hasn't logged in at all. One student might be struggling, whereas another simply might be disengaged. If you want information on a specific group or section of students, you can also use our filter options here. And a fun class progress fact is that if I hover over a student's image, I can see if they're currently online and send either an email or instant message right straight from here. This makes it very easy to quickly reach out to students when I notice a change in engagement. And class progress also gives you the option to look at individual learners. Class level insights are helpful and they really help you see some patterns, but that individual learner is where the tool really becomes powerful. So let's jump into Faith's progress summary. So once we go into Faith's section, you can see her name right here. Once again, we can send an email or an instant message straight from here. And we're met with a summary of the progress that she's made within this course. When we scroll down, you can see all of the different sections on the right-hand side. But instead of scrolling, if you know exactly which tool or section you'd like to look at for her, you can see that table of contents here where we could easily access information on those different tools like our learning outcomes, the assignments, and our quizzes. And you can also see here if a student has accommodations for quizzes. This level of insight helps instructors differentiate between different situations. So let's go into our learning outcomes. This is one of my favorite spaces in class progress because you can really easily see the level of mastery that students have with particular outcomes. So not only can I see an overview of feedback, which let's click into this space here. So I can see all of the feedback that I have here that I've given Faith on different assessments, but I can also click on them straight from here, open in a new tab. That did not open in a new tab, but that's okay. I can click on it straight from here and get a deeper level of understanding of kind of how they did on those outcomes, what they were doing on those different attempts. That's my bad. There we go. All right, so we can jump back into there. If I wanted to do the assignment proposal, I can see our rubrics, the feedback, and any of that information straight here or straight from here from the class progress space. So it really gives me the opportunity and Faith the opportunity to go straight into that activity and get a better understanding in terms of the engagement data with the actual learning outcomes. And I can easily see as an instructor what has and has not been assessed so far. If we jump into our content space, I can quickly see how much time a learner has spent on different content items, how many times they visited that piece of content, and the date and time it was last accessed. So let's go into this space here. So we can see that with her start of term checklist, Faith has visited this 4 times. She spent 17 minutes and 55 seconds, so about 18 minutes on it here. It was last visited in September. And if I hover over this here, I even have a note that says she's completed 0 out of 8 checklist items. You can compare that to the syllabus information. So she's visited the syllabus 22 times and has spent almost 3 hours on it. But they also have these little spaces here, like these check marks saying that she has viewed this topic, or even with this activity, she has completed this assignment. One thing I really love about this content space is that it gives me the information for any of those activities that I have linked in content, like this assignment or checklist. One note for these time on those content items is that if students are consistently spending either very little time or probably too much time on a resource, those can sometimes signal that it might need clearer instructions or restructuring of that content piece. If I visit the assignment space, I can see how many of the assignments have been submitted. I can see what's late and what's pending evaluation right here at the top. I can also click for more details on a particular assignment and see the feedback that I've given a learner. And I can click into any submissions that they've made. And one of the coolest parts here is the visual at the top of the assignment. This tells me how this learner's grade compares to that of her peers. You can see the highest grade in the class, which was a 92. Go Faith. We can also see the lowest grade there, which is a 63, and the median. It also shares what percentage of the class got above certain scores. So you can see that Faith is in the top 25% for this assignment. This kind of context can help instructors quickly determine whether an issue is affecting one student or the entire class. And everything that we're seeing here is something that Faith can see herself when she visits the class progress tool. So I'll show you what I mean. We're back here as Faith, and she has class progress here at the top of her nav bar. And when I go into my class progress space, you can see that it looks exactly the same as my instructor. I can see my progress summary. I can jump into specific tools like those learning outcomes and even compare or see how I compare to students in the class in that assignment space. So I have those box plots here as well. I do recognize that this box plot is something that not all instructors are going to want visible for their students. And the great news is that you can change it. So going back to our instructor space, we have another settings options here. And from here, I can choose which progress indicators I want to include. I can change report information settings like our box plots and the potential final grade range. And I can even update the percentages that are paired with our color indicators. One of the biggest benefits of these tools is the ability to support students earlier in the semester. Instead of discovering issues during midterm grades, instructors can easily identify disengagement patterns much sooner. You could send a quick check-in message, just like I mentioned earlier when we hover over the student's name or image. Or you can also use intelligent agents to automate feedback, which is a tool that you can use right in class progress. So here I am in the class progress section, and we have a space right here that says use agents to automate feedback. For those who aren't familiar with intelligent agents, I like to think of them like little robots that are scanning my course for signals to do something. So if we look at this agent here, you can see that this was created to email learners who haven't logged into this course in 5 days. We do have time for a brief look at this intelligent agent, so let's jump into that. I'm not going to do a deep dive into intelligent agents, but I do want to show you what this one in particular looks like. So in our scheduling space, you can see that this is set up to run weekly every Friday morning. And when we scroll down to look at criteria, you can see that it's set up for student and learner roles. And it is taking action based off of course activity. So this intelligent agent is triggered if a student or learner hasn't accessed this particular Business 101 course in the last 5 days. And when I scroll down into our action space, you can see the email students will receive. The fun part about intelligent agents is that you are the one still writing the email. And it's not Lumi, it's not ChatGPT, and unless you asked it to, it's coming from you. And I know you're probably thinking, how is writing an email fun? But with full access to the Brightspace editor, you can give this email as much of your personality as you'd like. So for this email, as you can probably kind of get a sneak peek of down here at the bottom, I've added a fun gift to it. I'm going to make this a bit larger. So there's nothing telling the student that this email was an automated email or automated email that I created maybe years before they even joined my class. To them, it's personal. Intelligent agents are a great tool to support learner accountability while keeping instructor workloads in mind. So you can see a couple other examples of intelligent agents here in this course. We have some congratulations messages, some late assignment reminders, and even an offer and offering additional academic support. So this one says additional support is available. And I'm going to go straight to our actions here just so you can see this email. This intelligent agent guides learners to review specific course materials and reminds them to visit during office hours. It also has the option to join a study group or try some extra credit bonus quizzes. But now that we've seen how these tools work inside of Brightspace, I want to take some time during the discussion to talk about how instructors can use these insights to really create a more proactive teaching approach. But for now, let's jump back into our slides. So a quick review of a quick review of our learning objectives for today. We defined course completion and using those completion tracking and content completion settings. We saw how to use class progress to monitor learner engagement across the course. And we also looked at how you can interpret that data to identify students who might need support earlier in the semester. While we go through the last few slides here, we would love it if you could take a few moments to fill out our survey. These results help us to improve our offerings and make sure that we're delivering really what you want to see. There's a QR code on the screen that you can scan, or you can use the link that Heather just shared in the chat. One quick note is many of you might have attended our session on Friday. I did already look at a lot of the feedback that we received, and it was pointed out to me that I did created some content that wasn't the most accessible for our students. So that kind of feedback is something that's really important for us to receive so we can change what we do moving forward. So thank you to those who submitted that feedback. We also have a couple links here on the slide that provide information on our product idea exchange or PI process. If you have any feedback regarding Brightspace itself, then be sure to check out those resources. We do invite you to join the D2L Champions program. Being a champion gives you the opportunity to receive points for sharing your experience, providing your feedback, and even for checking out our webinars like this one. You can then redeem these points for swag, gift cards, charity options, and additional D2L services. You can find a link for the Champions program in the chat now. And this may have been your first webinar with us, but we do have more to come, and this is what we have planned through May. The links to register for these upcoming sessions and our higher education overview page will be in the chat. So be sure to check out that overview page if you want to read session descriptions or get information on our past sessions. I do want to make a quick note about the one that we're having next month in April. We actually have a guest speaker coming in from Bongo who's going to be sharing kind of how she has used different tools to really ensure that academic integrity with AI. And speaking of webinars, our training team also hosts 2 monthly sessions for all Brightspace users. The first is a Q&A drop-in session where you can get your Brightspace questions answered in real time. And the second is focused on what's new in Brightspace using our monthly release notes. These sessions give you free access to our D2L training team in a way that you might not get otherwise, so be sure to check them out if you're available. And you can find more information on those sessions using the link that Heather just shared in the chat. Yeah, thank you everybody for joining. We really appreciate having you here.